50,000 miles, 65,000 kilometers. But this part of the California does rain quite a bit. San Francisco area, it's Robin Williams song. Maybe his estate paid for upkeep, or maybe someone else called Robin Williams.
Maybe his estate.
I swear, everyone drives by sonar. They're constantly on their horn, little bit. I don't know if you've ever tried to be in a car there. And the other one is everything seems to be a democratic voting process. So when you get to the intersection, even if there's traffic, like regular traffic, whoever has the most cars goes. It's like people just start going. What the hell are you doing?
So just leave your hands off the wheel for like 5 seconds. This is crazy. Look, I understand it in a Tesla, but any other vehicle, do not do that.
Nobody seems to speak English at the airport. Poisoned the water cooler at work with arsenic as part of a plot to kill their husband or something, and they ended up sickening half the office. And this is coming up on
You know, like I kind of thought, okay, because of my earlier terror dealing with LA, I thought, okay, here we go. And it was like the roads, it was the 101, stayed incredibly. Hello and welcome to another episode from Team Peachtree. And this time we are in California, and I'm with a friend of mine that I'd last seen at school, a guy called Webb. I mean, I'd literally last seen him in high school. And then now we're seeing him literally something like 35 years later or something like that. And our paths diverged certainly at the point where when he left school, he went to America. When I left school, I did my duty and I did national service, which is compulsory. And, you know, I wanted to get that done. And, of course, Webb made a different decision, and that is something that I couldn't help thinking about when I was spending time with him. You know, what if you'd made a different choice? What if you'd taken a different path? And so seeing Webb was a little bit like doing a bit of an experiment. I can't really remember what I ate here. I know Webb ate rabbit. I know this is one of the most expensive meals, one of probably about 5 pretty expensive meals I ate while I was in America. Webb paid for it, thanks a lot. That was actually a bird's nest. Unfortunately, I didn't zoom in very much, but there were actually birds, baby birds in that nest. So anyway, we went from Mustard's Grill in Napa Valley, which is fairly close to Sacramento, and instead of going straight home, I suggested to Webb that we go to San Francisco. And when I found out how far it was, I thought, okay, that's not going to work. But then Webb introduced me to his vehicle. We were driving a Tesla, and basically, not so much we were driving the Tesla was driving us. And that really makes such a big difference. The car takes so much stress out of driving. That the road you're looking at right now, I'd actually driven the previous night in the rain, in the dark, at night, in a rental. I didn't know that there were all the twists and turns. It was also at the end of hours and hours and hours of driving. And I guess that's one of the plus sides to living in South Africa. You've probably experienced all the extremes of road hazards in this country. And so, although it was a bit nerve-wracking going on a road like this, in the dark, you can see there's no street lighting. As long as you kept your nerve, then you'd be okay. And so we were basically going back the same route that I'd come through the previous day, and then basically just heading into San Francisco. I'd gone into the outskirts of San Francisco and then headed to Napa. And so now we were basically returning that way before going back to Thousand Oaks. This is one of the first police vehicles I'd seen in California.
That's a good tip.
And I've got to say, driving, being in the vehicle with Webb felt a lot like just being in a different world. It literally felt like by being in this vehicle, you suddenly stepped into a totally different world.
You can only go across the bridge like one direction
A day.
And so we were about to head into rush hour traffic, and I don't know what is more of a test of a vehicle's capability is rush hour in rain, and then it also is getting dark. I don't know, that's sort of the limit of that's the extreme limit of driving. There you can see San Francisco in the distance. It's actually a beautiful city, and it's a lot more, the city waves to you in a way that New York just doesn't. Certainly in my experience, you see San Francisco from a distance in a way that you don't see New York. And what's another city that's like Seattle is also a beautiful city that you see from a distance. And so this was that magical moment going over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Many Americans I speak to that are like...
And of course I'd written a book, well, I guess, what is it, 3 books set in this area dealing with Scott Peterson.
Or whatever.
And so in a way I was entering the fabric of some of my true crime writing. And obviously it's not an area that Webb was very familiar with. And often when we drove, we said, okay, which dead bodies are we going to go and look at today? And you can see it was a rainy day. Webb said it had been very unseasonably wet throughout California this year. And so that was the Golden Gate Bridge.
The Eiffel Tower is amazing.
A bridge you've seen so many movies, Superman, Spider-Man. I tend to think of them in superhero movies, but
it's like
definitely a bridge that many of us have seen in the movies.
That's one of those commonly known things is they never stop painting this bridge because by the time they get to the end, they have to start over.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to go to San Francisco, besides that I'd written about the Scott Peterson case, was that was also part of the fabric of where Gabby Petito went. And I mean, part of my entire trip to America was trying
Can you do one
to
in this tunnel?
Oh God, no.
revisit the spirit of Gabby Petito. Just that sense of seeing
Yeah, and
things,
we do this sort of thing
seeing
in South
places, going right across America and
U-turns
seeing
anywhere and everywhere.
nature and seeing places,
But there's
being on the
Alcatraz.
move. And so I must say, in my trip throughout June and July, I crossed Gabby's path so many times, and I sort of felt like she'd left kind of breadcrumbs in the sense of her Instagrams. It just made America a lot more friendly and a lot more accessible.
What's this building
Because
over here?
in the same way that San Francisco was like stepping in a completely different world, so it's the same with the giant redwoods. And so many different places, Manhattan as well, or it's a place that feels like you're stepping into a completely different world. And it can feel intimidating, right? If you don't have a guide, if you haven't rented a car before, it can definitely feel larger than life to some extent. Not sure what video was going on there. And so the challenge was, we just decided to go to the bridge and take a photo there. We didn't have a lot of time, just still a long drive to Thousand Oaks, and we were still going to have to deal with not only a rush hour, but a long drive to get to Thousand Oaks from where we were. And obviously, rush hour is much worse in the rain and, at night. I don't know if we found the best spot next to the Golden Gate Bridge. I still don't know exactly where that
Tunnel's
is.
a good idea.
But
Earthquake
we
zone.
did dodge some
I know you
some
can't have
raindrops in
subways.
order to take a couple of photos there. We should be coming up on those quite soon.
These things are easy once you know where they are.
Of course, the fact that it was raining, it rained basically the entire way from Sacramento to San Francisco. Just made the whole experience something like out of a dream. The fact that everything was shining and wet, it felt in a way like one was inside a movie. And the other thing that was quite interesting was how often you had to charge these Tesla vehicles. So this is the first charging station we went to. I think we ended up going to 3 or 4 in total. And so that's another experience, that is a little bit different to the average driver. Charging times are, I think they were quite a while, half an hour or so. And there you can see the skyline of San Francisco in the distance. I think San Francisco makes me think of Mrs. Doubtfire. Wasn't that movie made there? And so you can see Webb's vehicle, the doors open up like wings. It really is quite a cool vehicle.
In Melbourne.
And so from this point on, we were now going to try and exit San Francisco, basically from
America, outside of America.
Not the center of it, but certainly deep within the city, getting out. And I actually kind of enjoyed the fact that it was because of the amount of traffic, because of the rain, everything was slowed down. So you kind of got an extended view of the city that you might not otherwise get. And so you saw trams and buses, and you saw the beautiful fabric. It must be one of the most beautiful cities in America. People were telling me on Instagram and other places that there are certain problems there, but just from a glossing through perspective, I thought it was a really beautiful city. It turns a little bit like parts of Cape Town, Vredehoek, that sort of thing. Cape Town's also got these steep slopes, but
say Lombard Street is.
Yeah, San Francisco is definitely its own kind of city.
Some movie or some book or something. a song.
This is more like it.
Yeah, I got the warning just a second ahead because I saw all the gouges in the concrete up there where the bottoms of cars are scratched into stuff. You know, one nice thing about EVs, they have a lot of torque.
Yeah,
They don't give a
I have
they don't
noticed
give a
that.
shit about hills.
I have noticed that. And you know, you don't actually hear them like going, you know, which is the torque.
So it was a relief having Webb as my sort of taxi driver. I'd driven a certain section between Oregon and California, but that's a relatively remote part of America, whereas this section is, you know, it's LA freeways and that sort of thing. And it was still fairly early into my trip, and I was a little bit careful. I wanted to be a bit cautious about driving on roads, especially in the wet, in conditions that I wasn't used to. And so it was very not only interesting having Webb drive me, but also the vehicle itself was actually taking over that job. This is us going to the bridge. On foot, obviously. I've got a feeling Gabby Petito was on the other side of that walkway. In South Africa, we call that where you have sunshine and rain at the same time, we call that a monkey's wedding. Is that close to where Gabby Petito filmed that? Anyway. Was she right on the other side of the bridge? It's hard to say. Can't quite make it out. And so much later on, and I'll do this in a separate episode, we also went to Santa Monica. I didn't actually know that this footage that we're seeing right here was Santa Monica until Webb and I were actually at Santa Monica and seeing some of the sights and sounds from Gabby Petito's video and her Instagram. And so this was just a crow that I captured on the sign where we parked. Crows got a little bit of significance for me. I've written a book where crows played quite a big role. So when I see them, it definitely does. So there you can see a beautiful photo of San Francisco in the light, shining almost like a jewel. Yeah. I always love the footage like this where part is in sunshine and the other part is in shadow. Probably a bit of my great-grandfather. Okay, so I think that's enough talking from me. I'll leave you to get a feeling of the sights and sounds just by listening to the music and just getting a sense of what we were seeing. I will be following this up with just more footage that I've recorded but not really done anything with in terms of my trip through America. That's just a screen grab from a couple of photos from inside San Francisco on our way out.
What?
It's a city that feels
YouTube videos
like a village in large parts, and that's what I think a city should look and feel like.
12 times before he gets there. College is a ways off.
Don't you think?
And probably for the most part enjoying more. In particular, the latest thing called, I don't know if you watched Strange New Worlds.
final. These are the voyages of the Discovery and
Keep weaving, and I'll see you guys next time.